Ready to call this meeting to order now that we have a quorum. Sure, Representative Pollock had to sleep in this morning, so he makes our fifth one. And glad to have you here this morning, Representative Pollock. Always good to see you. Kim, if you would please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Present.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton, Representative McCool,
Here.
Representative Pollock,
Here.
Representative Hart,
Here.
Chairman Meredith.
Present. Again, we do have a quorum constituted to do business, but before we get into the formal agenda, I'd like to take a point of personal privilege here. We got an election coming up in less than a month now, and we're going to see a lot of new faces in Frankfort come January. I think within our Senate alone, with 38 senators, we're going to have 5 new senators, and I don't know how many we'll see on the House side, but it's substantial. In my 8 years here, I think we've seen close to a 50% turnover in the Senate, and I think the House may be comparable. And you wonder when you have that kind of turnover how state government works. And I'll give you a classic example of that. And this is a young lady to my left here. It's a bittersweet moment for us because this is going to be her last meeting on government contract review after serving almost 28 years in state government, all on this committee. I can tell you how invaluable she is to each and every one of us. She will be sorely missed, but I just want to tell her how much I appreciate the contribution she's made. Kim, along with the other 2 staffers here, can't tell you how much ownership they have for the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and it comes from the love of this state, and they make sure that we stay on task and that we do things properly, and I thank all of them, but particularly Kim, with this being her last meeting, and wish you the best, Godspeed, and hope the rest of your years are filled with nothing but blessings. And
thank you, Chairman Meredith.
Thank you for your
Greatly
contributions.
appreciate that.
Now, if I can keep from crying, we'll go on to our agenda. First item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes of the September 10th meeting of the committee. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton, Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Total number of items on the agenda today are 677 in the amount of $355,710,847.80. All vendors are registered with the Secretary of State's office. And just a second here, let me find where I am. We have one item on the deferred list, and I've received a request from one of our committee members who's apparently stuck in traffic. If we could delay this for the time being, we will try to act on this committee meeting, but he wants to be present for the discussion and the vote on this, so we're going to pass on this for the time being. And that's the one from the Kentucky College of Art Design, which we deferred from previous meetings. So if you folks are here, just sit tight. We'll be with you just as soon as possible. With the exception of that one, our next order of business includes consideration of items that on the deferred list, personal service contract list, personal service contract amendment list, memorandum of agreement list, memorandum of agreement amendment list, and the corrections list, except for those items selected for further review. Do we have a motion to consider the contracts review without objection?
Motion.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton, Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, sorry, motion carries. First item on the pull list with the Administrative Office of the Courts, and is number 1 on the PSC green list. If representatives are here, please ask you to come forward. No one here? No one? Is it virtual?
Good morning. I'm Valletta Brown with the Office of Bar Admissions, but Administrative Office of the Courts, we're under their umbrella. So I just didn't know if that was the matter you were calling.
Yes, we're discussing your contract with McBrayer PLLC, and I requested this one be pulled because you've requested a retroactive start date on this agreement, and would like
Yes,
you to
sir.
walk me through the timeline a little bit as to why this is a retroactive start date request.
Yes, sir. Be happy to. Good morning. My name is Valletta Brown.
If you would, I'm
I'm
sorry,
the
before you
director of-
proceed, and we're a little bit disjointed.
Yes.
I'm a little bit disjointed this morning. If you would, I'd like to ask you to raise your right hand. And do you solemnly swear to
Yes,
tell
sir.
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed. I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. My name is Valletta Brown. I'm the director of the Kentucky Office of Bar Admissions. So the Kentucky Office of Bar Admissions was formerly a quasi-governmental agency. And when I began this position in 2020, our finances were more independent from Administrative Office of the Courts. The attorney in question that we are contracting with, the McBrayer contract, we had previously had attorney services provided to this office before I became the director. From time to time, there are lawsuits or acts before the Supreme Court that are filed with respect to Kentucky Office of Bar Admissions, because we handle character and fitness for attorneys, and we also handle administration of the bar exam. So there had been an ongoing, I don't know if you want to call it a retainer. Whenever this action was filed before the Supreme Court, there was not an existing contract previously. Our financial services have now been completely handled by the Administrative Office of the Court personnel, their financial services. They informed me, so it was just my ignorance, basically, of the fact that we would need to get a contract for services. And so when there was ongoing litigation, which had previously wrapped up in, I want to say, May of this year, for which those services had been provided previously. And so when I became aware that we needed a contract provided and that there were procedures in place, I immediately drafted all the recommended letters and worked with the Administrative Office of the Courts personnel to basically educate me and inform me in what I needed to do to be compliant with the contracting procedures. The reason for the retroactivity is because of the filing. If a petition, it's a petition for the Supreme Court to proceed under Rule 60. That response is required within 20 days, and it's obviously it's an involved response. A pleading is something that you can't really throw together super quickly. So this was something that was very time sensitive in terms of getting the response to the petition filed on behalf of this office.
Well, I appreciate you falling on the sword for this one. Confession is good for the soul, but what you're telling me is this is continuation of litigation that's in process, correct?
Not exactly. A different type of litigation had just ended, which began back in 2021, which was previous to our financial services. So this is a new action which was filed in late August by a petitioner. And so this specific contract is a new contract. The previous one had concluded. And so when this one began, I had never had to do a contract before, just because our financials were not handled by AOC at the time the initial representation began back in 2021.
So are these contracts case specific, or is this firm on a retainer?
The way, forgive my, this is my understanding is that it would be case specific. Yes, that's Apple. In my understanding is it's case specific. So if another case arose, that we would have to go through the same procedure.
So this was initiated in August,
Yes, sir.
and the contract was written when?
Well, I'm sorry. Let me refer. Bear with me just a minute. September 1st.
And when was it awarded?
It hasn't been. It's on the for review this morning, is my understanding.
Then it really doesn't constitute a retroactive approval then, does it?
My understanding is because it's now October, that anything in September would be considered retroactive. Retroactive.
No, I think you're confused on your timeline, and not being critical of you. I understand you're new to this process, but
Sure.
I really don't think this is a retroactive approval.
Okay.
Until it actually comes to us. But
Apologies if it was docketed incorrectly or
well, again, I appreciate that's a learning experience for you since you're new to this, and I'm certainly willing to give you a pass. But again, I think I speak on behalf of our committee. We have a real sensitivity to retroactively approving contracts because the work's done and it's over, and we never have a chance to really appropriately review it as to the scope of work or the amount of resources expended for it. So that's why if you have a retroactive request, probably you're going to appear before this committee. There are exceptions to it, but they are quite rare. But I'm willing to give you a pass on this one. And only
thank you, sir.
only question I would have though was this contract was an RFP for it.
So again, apologies. I'm working currently with Ashley Hooker and Carol Henderson and Jenny Lafferty in terms of just trying to do what I need to do for our office to be able to move forward. As far as when you say an RFP, here I can tell you what I did. So I did a letter. I'm not sure if this committee has the letter explaining the need for basically to go, for this contract, which obviously exceeds the hourly rate. Because of the previous representation and the level of expertise that has been gained on our niche function as far as Office of Bar Admissions. So I prepared that letter, whatever that's called. And then I provided I prepared the contract, which was September 1st. So apologies. This is not moving forward. This is so are you telling me basically, I'm sorry, I have a question for you if you don't mind.
Sure.
This is not retroactive is what you're telling me, even though you all are reviewing it on your October agenda.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll know for next time. Yes, sir. Now I will say there was consultation in late August. So with respect to that, but that's not included in this. So basically, because of the timing of the filing, it's my understanding that the September 1st forward would cover the legal work performed.
Well, two concerns. First is that our approved hourly rate is $125 an hour.
Yes, sir.
And this one is for $250, double that
Yes,
amount.
sir.
And we have no way of validating that another firm might be interested in performing this work at a lesser rate or even an equal rate. But it concerns me when we just continually approve contracts without consideration of the bidding process. And I understand and appreciate this is a very specific type of work, but we have numerous law firms throughout our Commonwealth. And I see nothing in your letter which really substantiates for me why we're paying a much larger rate than what is authorized.
Again, I've worked in government for a long time. So as far as hourly rates of lawyers, it's my understanding that $250 is like a governmental rate.
No, ma'am,
and that
it is
fully-
not. It is $125.
No, sir, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to. No. Don't misunderstand me. I apologize. As far as obviously 125, I guess. Yes, I understand. That's the reason for this procedure and this, the extra steps and so forth is because it is beyond, above and beyond that rate. Yes, sir. That was explained to me.
Well, again, I get that a lot that, this is very specialized work and this is the only firms in the world that can do this. When I know that's not the case, that there are other law firms that possibly could do this work, would want to do this work. And just because there's a standing relationship with an existing law firm, I don't think is reasonable justification for saying, just let us do this contract. It's a different story altogether if it's ongoing litigation that hasn't been resolved. But when it's a new case, just to say we want to use this firm because we like this firm and think they're good in this particular field, it's tough for me as a legislator to validate that that's reasonable.
I can understand your point of view. Absolutely. What I will say is it's a different case, but it's the same kind of claim. So it's non-standard testing accommodations for a bar exam. And so that is our agency is the only agency in the state which administers the bar exam. And there's not a comparable agency that does our type of work.
I understand
this
that.
firm has represented this office again before I arrived here as a director. Excuse me. And so, that's the. There were similar claims brought by. I'm sorry.
It may appear to be justification for you, but again, it is a great concern to me that we renew a contract without consideration of any of the law firms because we've used these people for years. We know the quality of the work they do, and that may be quite valid. But you haven't done anything to convince me that there's not another law firm out there that doesn't have this expertise that could do it for less than $250 per hour. That's what I struggle with. I know this law firm. I know they do a lot of work with their state, a lot of our institutions, but that in itself is not justification for trying to validate a $250 per hour fee.
Advice is that it's my understanding that is a reduced fee compared to the typical hourly fee, and that it's comparable to other firms who do work.
How do you know that? Do you have that documented?
Anecdotal, just anecdotes, sir.
So it's not documented anywhere.
That's true.
Well, again, our charge is to make sure that resources that are expended are reasonable and justifiable. And what the documentation you provided me so far does not substantiate that at all. It may very well be, but needs to be a process in place to make sure that we're spending the Commonwealth's dollars wisely, judiciously, and there's nothing here to convince me of that. You're almost giving this contract a sole source contract, and I don't think it's sole source.
I would point out as a matter, just as part of the representation is knowledge of the body of work that we do and the intricacies of the work that we do. And another attorney or another law firm coming up to speed would be many, many billable hours just to learn and understand bar examinations, character and fitness proceedings.
Well, if you use that
Our
logic, then
charge
at
from
what
the
point in time
court-
because this law firm couldn't say our rate's going to be $300 an hour? And then you tell me again, well, we have this long-standing relationship. They know how we work. It's a matter of efficiency, and there's savings dollars on the state side because we're working with this firm. But at what point do we say, no, that's too much? Would that be $350 an hour? Would that be $500 an hour? $600 an hour? At what point does it validate that we need to actually bid these things or ask for requests for proposals? I'll tell you what I'd like to do at this point, particularly since you had noted for us, and quite appropriately, that you're relatively new in this relationship. Could we defer action on this contract and let's have continue to have some dialogue on this so just we have an understanding about how this committee works and what the expectations are? Hello?
Motion to defer.
Second.
Motion second to defer. Any questions, comments? Being done, Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Contract will be deferred till next month to allow us to gather some more information.
Directing me to get an RFP, sir?
Excuse me?
Are you directing me to request an RFP?
No, I'm asking you to let's have some further conversation about this so we can understand how this committee works, what the expectations are, and what I can expect in the future in terms of any contract that may come from your division. Because I think there's a gross misunderstanding about how this process is supposed to work, and I want us all to get on the same page so we don't have to have this conversation going forward. Is that reasonable?
Thank you all very much for your time.
Well, thank you.
Chair. Chair.
May I be excused?
Chair.
I'm sorry, Representative Chester Burton.
You're fine.
Didn't see you. Please.
Okay, so I just suggest that an RFP would be a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry I didn't see you there. Next, I'm on the pool list, Department of Disability Determination, and our numbers 17 through 31 on the PSC green list. And representatives obviously are here. If you would come forward. Make sure your mic has green.
Good morning,
bright
Chairman.
green. Good morning.
Wesley Phelps, Medical Relations Branch Manager for Kentucky Disability Determination Services.
Welcome.
Good morning, Jessica Williamson. I'm General Counsel for the Education and Labor Cabinet.
Thank you for being here this morning. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Representative Co-Chair Hart has questions.
Thank you guys for being here. It's more of a probably an educational issue, but it strikes me as a lot of money that we're paying out for a 21-month period, especially when you consider most of these contracts are awarded to individuals. And if my math's correct, that's roughly $36,000 per month. Can you just tell me and the committee how these individuals are selected, what particular expertise you're looking for in these individuals, and what an average work week would look like for them?
Sure, absolutely. I would like to make one note first, though. These contracts don't pay out the full sum to each doctor. They're production based. So they sort of establish a budget that Social Security recommends for us to be available to them based on their production. So what we're looking for, Social Security has policy requirements for folks with certain expertise. Typically, we have to use an MD to assess physical impairments, and we have to use a clinical psychologist or a PhD psychologist with equivalency established by their specialty in education. So we're looking for folks who have clinical expertise in disabilities. The RFP usually involves consideration of their prior work for DDS, and a short interview with them. about their clinical experiences and qualifications. The way that they work is per case referral. So essentially, Social Security requires every medical determination that we make to have all impairments evaluated and signed off on by a doctor, by an MD or a PhD psychologist. So as the adjudicator, who is the stateside staff, works the case, when they get to the point where evidence is sufficient to assess essentially the sum total ability that the person has remaining to perform substantial gainful activity, they create a referral, which is a request for review by the specialist, and they'll indicate whether it's to be seen by an MD or a psychologist. And then those are randomly assigned by Social Security's software. So whoever is working that day, essentially when their slate is clean, they will select to get the next case. So they review the totality of the medical records. They use Social Security policy to guide their determination, and they create a document that we call an RFC, residual functional capacity. And that sort of outlines the most that person is capable of in spite of their impairments. When that's completed, that goes back to the adjudicator for the final determination. Doctors do not actually make the determination because there are other policy and procedures SSA has involved with that related to their vocational history and that sort of stuff, like previous work that they've done and how skills might transfer from one job to another. So essentially, we pay a rate outlined in the contract of $50 per claim completed, and the total amount of the contract is based on 6,600 claims. I will tell you that a lot of our medical consultants are either part-time so that they can maintain a clinical practice and their readiness, or they're retired physicians, and so they do not typically work at a pace which would pay out that entire contract. Typical performance is about 1 to 2 cases per hour, and most folks tend to work around 30 hours a week.
Okay. So it's better when looking at these and reviewing them to look at it with the expectation that it's a case by case job instead of weekly.
Yeah, that's
All
correct.
right. Well, you've answered my questions. I understand it a lot better. So I appreciate you all coming.
Absolutely, no problem.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Senator Douglas has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Phelps, is it fair to say that most of these examinations and determinations are wholly subjective?
I would say that there is always subjectivity, especially when you're
No. Let's back up. Let's be fair to the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. These exams are wholly subjective.
No.
Yes, they are.
I
Then
disagree.
tell me the objective component.
Okay. For clarification, are you referring to examinations by doctors in the field, consultative exams that we receive, or are you talking about the assessment that our MCS complete?
Let's clarify initially. When we're talking about two different things. We're talking about impairment versus disability, which are two totally different.
Certainly,
we don't want to conflate the two.
Yes, certainly.
Right? They are both wholly subjective. And I'm asking you to, either of those categories, help me with the objective part of the exam.
Social Security's policy includes what they call the listing of impairments, and that's like a giant sort of Bible of...
Yeah, but actually, I think now we're working with the 6th edition of the evaluation to disability. Yes. I know it very, very, very well.
So those outline conditions which are typical of applicants. They try to cover all, but they break them down into body systems. So there will be listings that refer to cardiac impairments, listings that refer to mental impairments, neurological, and so on.
Which still are very, very subjective.
Within those, they will have a specific listing for a specific condition, so congestive heart failure, for example. And those are organized underneath that with criteria for what is considered to meet the listing. So that is, if you have a diagnosis and you have specific medical findings, if you have, say, congestive heart failure and you have dimensions of your heart on an echocardiogram measured by a physician that fall within a certain range, we allow benefits. Anything outside of that outside of meeting those listings, we evaluate based on the functional information that the claimant provides. So we ask them a detailed questionnaire about what they're able to do day in and day out. And we use that to determine what they would be able to do in a work setting, if anything at all.
Do you think we would be doing a much better service to those who are in the impairment/disability arena, as well as those who are paying for this area, if we had a means of primarily using objective data to assess not only impairment but also disability?
We do use objective medical findings. So we use, for musculoskeletal conditions, we're looking for a doctor to provide range of motion, how far you can bend.
I get that. I get that. I've done that for years. They are subjective. They're based on what the patient will allow us to do, which makes it. Please understand. This is where I've been for 40 years. I get it. My question is very simple. Do you think our system would benefit to a much greater extent and be much more fair if we had the ability to make more objective, reproducible determinations in terms of assessing both impairment and disability?
Thank you for the clarification. Yes, I do think that we desire that a great deal.
Okay, thank you very
Yes.
much. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Sorry for the confusion.
Thanks, Senator. Representative Chester Burton, you have a question?
Thank you. So my question is, to clarify, so you have a review board, is that right?
Yes, we have the medical consultants that we've contracted with.
So when a person applies for disability, and if the doctor says they are disabled, then it goes to the review board. And then you all decide if they say that person is disabled or not disabled, it still goes to the review board.
The doctor does not make the final determination in the case. So
That's
an agency
what I'm
decision.
trying to find out.
Yes, we have state employee staff. We refer to them as adjudicators. So they're the primary caseworker. They're the primary contact for the claimant when they apply. So they collect the information. They talk to them about their condition. They get their functional information. They collect the evidence from their doctors, and then they use our medical consultants' assessment with Social Security's policy about vocational factors and that sort of stuff to make the final determination. Yes.
So if an individual has submitted their paperwork to a doctor, and the doctor says they're enabled, whatever, disabled, then it goes to a review board, right?
Yes, the application comes to our agency. If their personal doctor...
So I guess I'm saying, if the doctor says they're disabled, but then it goes to a review board, those individuals doctors or not?
Our medical consultants are doctors, yes.
Okay.
But the adjudicative staff apply vocational policy. They are state employees.
So I guess I'm asking, why would it go to a doctor if they say they're disabled, not disabled, and then come to the board, and then the board determines if they're disabled or not? I'm just...
That's actually a matter of the federal regulations. The determination of whether or not somebody is eligible for Social Security disability is disabled under those rules is what they call an issue reserved to the Commissioner of Social Security.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're stuck with that.
Representative McCool.
Thank you. And I'm just trying to learn the process too. This state employees who review these applications or whatever, are they credentially certified medically and mentally? Because you also deal with mental disability as well. What background do these folks have that would override a doctor's?
Everybody at DDS that works cases has at least completed a 4-year bachelor's degree, but then when they're hired, they undergo a 3-year training process in our program with Social Security's policy. They're not making that medical portion of the assessment. That's reserved to the doctors that we're contracting with. They're making an administrative determination on how that medical stuff interacts with Social Security's policy and vocational guidelines.
Can I ask another question, Mr. Chairman? Thank you. Okay, so you have some doctors that, or they're reviewing both mentally and physically disabilities. Does the client ever get to see that person?
They do not meet the medical consultant that reviews the case, no.
Thank you.
Representative Chesterburton, you have a follow-up?
I do have a follow-up. So, okay. So you're saying it seems like that doctors certify or not certify the disability. And it goes to a committee or something. Is that what you're saying?
It's an individual adjudicator. It's a single employee with a caseload.
So if that person looking at the information decides that the doctor was not correct in his or her determination, they get to say whether or not a person is enabled.
There is an arbitration process where there is collaboration between the doctor and the adjudicator if there's some disagreement over what the doctor has assessed the case as.
Okay, so at that point, how does an individual know if they have been treated over a period of time that their information is being passed along through the doctor to certify and then to another person? How are they to know the outcome?
They're notified by Social Security after the decision is made.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Representative McCool, follow-up?
Yes, I'd like to follow up on that question if you don't mind. My understanding is they're notified that they're not approved. They're not notified as why. They're not really given specifics. And so there's not a conversation between the doctor who says this person has this disability and mentally or physically. Now, physically is probably easier to maybe, I guess, justify. And by the way, you mentioned about baccalaureate degree. I appreciate everybody who's got a baccalaureate degree. I have that and beyond. I could not do that job. That's just, I don't think I have the credentials to follow up on somebody's mental state of mind, which is a whole different world and very difficult than it is. Physical, you could see oftentimes. Mentally, there's so many different categories out there. And I want people to be served properly. And if you don't get to speak to or the whoever the advocate for this person is, whether it be lawyers, I guess they have to have a lawyer. Do they get to speak to the panel or anything like that?
It's up to the individual claimant whether they retain legal representation or non-legal
I understand that, but
representation.
they can retain
They do
that.
not speak to the medical consultant, but they have access to the file. Representatives now do. And once a decision is made, the claimant can also access their file and see all the information we collected, all the assessments completed by doctors on staff, and the ultimate determination. And they can use that if they feel the need to file an appeal or pursue further action.
How much timeline do they give a person to get the information to them when they request it?
Right now with the mail like it is, we usually give the claimant about 15 days after the mailing date to respond, but that's very loose, especially when you're dealing with somebody with a complex mental condition. We essentially have a process where if we don't get that information within 15 days, we're not denying the claim. We're reaching out again through a different avenue. We're looking for a third party that may know them well, somebody to help us get in touch with them. There are a lot of steps before we would consider somebody to have not provided what we need.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to say this, but I've seen this. This is not true. I've seen that. That's not true. Timeline is like 3 or 4 days. And for a doctor to get that to them in that timely manner and maintain their patient staffing and everything else, sometimes it's very, very difficult. I don't see that happening. It seems like there's just no oversight in this. We've got this unknown group out here making these decisions and no accountability. It's disturbing to me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Phelps, first of all, I want to say that this is not a reflection on you, and I apologize if it seems that way. We understand that there are a lot of federal guidelines, and that the charge of those people who run these programs is to follow the guidelines. We understand that. We're not here to say that, you're trying to present false information. We understand that there are guidelines that you have to follow. But the bottom line is this, is we have people who are adjudicators who have minimal medical knowledge at best. Yet, they're the ones who are assessing the validity of a physician's determination. That is the bottom line, whether we like that or not. During the appeal process, it generally requires some attorney intervention, which is going to cost the one who is seeking disability a lot of money. They don't do it for free. Over the last 38 years, I've offered to write letters for patients if the attorney wouldn't charge them for asking me to write that letter. Would you like to know how many times my attorneys have said they would do that?
Please.
Zero. So there are issues in the system. We appreciate that you're having to work in the system. We're just trying to gather information to see if we can help the system run more efficiently and be more effective. That's all we're doing here. It is not meant to say that you are doing anything wrong, your office is doing anything wrong. We understand that you have guidelines. I just want to make sure that I clarify that.
No problem at all. I appreciate that. I just want to answer your questions the best that I can.
And I know there are boundaries there with. I'll leave it at that. But I want to thank you for coming to present this. This is one of the areas that we have that truly needs to be revised. Absolutely no doubt that this area of disability and impairment, doctors have very, very, very little say in disability. I don't care what the guidelines say. Those of us who are boots on the ground will tell you we have almost nothing to say regarding disability. We do impairment, but that is only when those people that we present this information to will take that information into account and use it. We also do not have the time, because of our caseloads, to go back and repeat things, and sometimes our patients really need it. So we're just trying to point out some of the problems that we have in the system, and we want the public to know that we really are trying to be vigilant about helping to repair the system. But I thank you for the information that you presented this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Chester Burton, you have yet another follow-up.
I'm sorry. After Representative McCool asked his question, it came to mind another question. So, if your physicians are certifying the paperwork, it appears to me that when it goes to the committee or whatever it's called, that they get to second guess the physician who is certified in their field. So I'm saying, if we are going to second guess the physicians that certify, you put them through that process, fill out the paperwork. Okay, they say yay or nay, and then it goes back and then the committee or whoever decides, okay, you said yes, you said no, but then we're going to second guess you and we're going to say yea or nay. So I'm just trying to figure out why that is.
And I will let Mr. Phelps add to whatever I'm able to provide here. But I appreciate the prior clarification that it is the Social Security Act that defines disability. And so to your question, that has to be followed. That's in the Code of Federal Register. So those are federal guidelines that must be followed in the decision making. So I just did want to provide that clarification for everyone here today. That's the process that is to be followed in making these determinations.
Just one more question. So it seems to me that I know there are guidelines, that guidelines might need to be modified so that the hurdles that one has to jump through does not take as long to get a response.
Any questions or comments? If not, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. I realize we don't have the ability to change the process. We review the contract. I agree with a lot of the questions and comments that's being said. I really appreciate you all coming. You've explained a lot to me this morning, but due to the fact that we don't have the ability in this committee to change the process at this time, we can continue the discussion and the dialogue. But with that in mind, I would like to make a motion for approval.
Motion, is there a second? Second by Representative Chester Burton.
Chair, since you have a second, can I raise a point of information?
If it can be brief, because we're running way behind, so please be brief.
Well, I believe that. I want to go back to Representative McCool's point. And if you don't mind, Representative McCool, explain to me your concerns and reservations. What do you think is not correct about what they said? I'm serious. I want to hear what you have to say.
I just don't know who this committee is. Do they have the credentials other than having some type of in-house training? Do they have, if they're dealing with mental health issues, do they really have expertise in bipolar, borderline, or PTSD? Do they have that understanding of that, which is quite different? I can't even think that way. But they're making these decisions on guidelines, evidently, but nobody gets to speak to, they don't get to defend themselves by who makes the call, from my understanding. They never get to see, we don't know who this group is. There's never there's never a meeting with the attorney or the doctor or several doctors who have made their recommendation, who have the expertise in that field. They don't get to address this unknown group face to face. So really, to me, it's a disservice to the people at large who are going through this process that they don't get to speak to the people who are making this decision. So I'm just very concerned. And the timeline, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, constituents and doctors, the report comes in on a Thursday, and you got to have this done by Monday. Well, a lot of us are busy. We all are busy. And that timeline is very rigid. They don't have 15 days. It's 5 days, maybe a maximum. By the time the doctor reviews it, plus they already got their caseload, I just don't think we're giving them time to. And then, honestly, does it really matter? Probably not. Because if you're not going to listen to a certified psychologist or a certified physician at any level, or multiple doctors, then it's just, for lack of other words, Senator, it's a dog and pony show. So,
Senator Meredith, I did not second that, just so you know.
Second.
Now there's a second. Thank you. Kim, did you get that? All in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Aye, but briefly explain my vote. I agree with Representative Hart. You know, the truth is you're just trying to do your job, and we really appreciate that. But that doesn't mean that the system doesn't need to be reviewed and modified, and I thank you for that.
Senator Thomas,
I'm going to vote aye because I tend to believe that most people who claim to be disabled are. Now, look, I'm not naive. I'm well aware of Kentucky's history and notoriety of abuses in this area. They've been well documented nationally and in criminal courts. But nonetheless, according to Representative Hart, you have followed the guidelines here. And I do think, and I'm really sympathetic to Representative McCool's point. That's why I asked him to say this. I do think at the end of the day, we ought to err on the side of providing people who claim to be disabled due process. They ought to have a hearing. They ought to be able to confront their accusers, or in this case, witnesses who are opposed to their positions, and be heard, and let the evidence speak for itself. So I ask you to be really sensitive to those who are claiming to be disabled in this case. But I'm going to vote aye on this.
Representative Chester Burton,
Explain my vote. I'm going to explain my vote.
Proceed.
Okay, so I'm going to pass because I really believe that if a physician has been seeing a patient over time and they recommend that they are either disabled or not, that you, meaning the committee or whatever, would respect that information, and otherwise we could bypass the physician and go straight to the committee with the information that a person allows. So I'm going to pass.
Representative McCool,
No.
Representative Pollock,
Yeah.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith,
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for being available to us today.
No problem. Thank you.
Committee members, we're 1 hour into this. We have 1 hour left. We haven't even scratched the surface in this, and I'm not intending to chastise my colleagues here, but I want to remind you what the charge of our committee is. We can't fix state government. Would love to, but there's not enough days of my life left to do that. Just to remind you that as we're examining these contracts, we've got specifically 3 charges. One is examine whether the service could or should be performed by state personnel, examine the amount and duration of the contract and agreement, and examine the appropriateness of any exchange of resources or responsibilities. So we can't continue going this path trying to, again, fix state government. So I'd ask your patience and indulgence, and let's try to move through this as quickly as we can. Next item on the pull list is Kentucky State University. Is number 46 on the PSC green list. Your representatives are here. At this point in the meeting, I ask you to run to the table as quickly as you can. Please identify yourself for the record. Make sure your mic is lit and green.
Good morning. My name is Zach Atwell, and I'm the General Counsel for Kentucky State University.
Good morning. I'm Fran Pinkston. I'm the
Your
director.
mic's not on, I don't believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looked green to me. Good morning. My name is Fran Pinkston. I'm the Director of Purchasing for the university.
Appreciate you being here, and I request this contract be pulled. And I know you've been here for the duration of this. A lot of my questions are going to be in the same context as what we had with the first contract. Is we have a letter of explanation, but it really doesn't give me an explanation. We're paying a premium rate for this, and I really don't understand why, particularly given the financial history of Kentucky State University, why are we spending double what the state-approved rate is?
Thank you for the question, Senator Meredith. So the vendor was chosen for primarily 2 reasons. One, the knowledge that the attorney identified in the letter of explanation Don Morgan has of Kentucky State University's policies. He previously was an associate at Sturgill Turner Barker Maloney, the university's primary outside counsel. He was intimately involved with the university's litigation and HR policies. And so we determined that he was the best. He was one of only a handful of attorneys who would have that expertise as it relates to Kentucky State University. Secondly, Dinsmore and Scholl is the primary outside counsel for a number of the other regional universities, including WKU, EKU, and Murray State University, as well as the University of Louisville. They are known as experts in higher education, and we felt that because of that, they were the best option for the university as well. I do want to point out that the university will continue to use its primary outside counsel, Sturgill, Turner, Barker, and Maloney. This contract was used as a supplement in the event that Sturgill Turner is unable to assist the university on specific issues due to case workload or conflicts of interest.
Well, you had me up to the point where you said there's maybe a half a dozen other law firms that could do this kind of work, and that points to my question, particularly given the financial position of Kentucky State University over the years, is why wouldn't we at least go through the exercise to hear these other firms and what they may offer? Why would we not do that in order to show the public that we truly are exercising our fiduciary responsibility and spending the dollars as wisely as possible? Why would we not do that?
Again, thank you for the question. I think in this situation, again, because Don Morgan, the attorney at Dinsmore and Scholl, he served with Sturgill Turner and represented.
What if he's killed in a car wreck tomorrow? What do you do?
God forbid that happens.
I would say God forbid, yes.
But in that situation, then I would argue that an RFP would be the right thing to do. I certainly understand, and I agree with you on that, Senator Meredith. But again, given Don Morgan's expertise, given the fact that he represented the university for 7 years, we think that he would, or excuse me, not 7 years, 5 years. I think that he has an expertise and an understanding of our policies, specifically our HR policies, which is the primary reason.
But there's some value sometimes of bringing in new blood to a situation to look at it from an entirely different perspective than what we have. And again, I understand your arguments. I don't know that I embrace them greatly, but those are my arguments. Any other questions, comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the contract?
I have a question.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Yes, Representative Chester Burton.
So I'm just trying to gather around in my mind. So you're saying $250 per hour monthly. No, it says per hour. Okay. So so $250 per hour. So, and you said that this individual has worked with other universities.
The firm has.
The firm. Okay. Yes. So is that their hourly rate with all the universities?
To my knowledge, no. I believe that they gave the Kentucky State University a special rate, given the university's financial circumstances.
Okay, so you're saying
now I won't say compare, and I apologize for interrupting. I don't know if that's compared to the other regionals. I just know that is in comparison to the University of Louisville's rates.
And you mentioned some other universities. So you have UofL, $250 an hour. And what are the other universities?
I want to clarify. I don't know what the University of Louisville's hourly rates are. It's my understanding that the rate that they've provided Kentucky State University is lower than that rate. I do not know the rates that they charge the other regionals, including Murray State, WKU, and EKU. But I do know that compared to the University of Louisville, our rate is reduced.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Not entertaining motion? Motion by Senator Thomas for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Representative Hart. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
No, but explain my vote, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
You know, Mr. Chair, I sit here contract after contract and realize that we on this committee are being asked to respect the variability that there is in the marketplace for what people are getting reimbursed, or what guidelines that federal or other offices are putting out there. We need to capitulate with that. But over and over and over, I find that people are taking state contracts and they're asking us also. They're basically saying, we understand that you have these guidelines, but we won't want to follow these guidelines. We just want the contract, and then we want to tell you what we're willing to take. And so at some point, we have to decide, are we going to follow the guidelines that the state sets out for us to follow with our expectation that we're following everyone else's guidelines, or do we not? And just as when California did not want to respect us as a commonwealth, I have got to say no. We've got to put a stop somewhere. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Thomas.
No.
I like to explain my I vote, and I'm going to say at the beginning.
Briefly, please.
Senator Meredith, I love this committee because I love the give and take that we have. I come down differently, Senator Douglas, for a couple of reasons. One, Zach, I love your political speak because you were trying to say, without saying it, that you thought they were the best firm to do this work, and I get what you're saying because that's true. So I'll say it. In your opinion, they're the best firm. They have the person that's the most knowledgeable about Kentucky State University's policies. Dinsmore and Shoal is a high-end firm. They do high-quality work. They're known as one of the best, if not the best, in the field of higher education. And so that checks all the boxes in a high area for their services. Number two, and you didn't say this, but I'll say this: $250 an hour for a high-end firm is low these days for hourly rates. I mean, most firms of that quality will charge anywhere from $400 to $450 an hour now. And you didn't say what University of Louisville's rate was, but what you were saying subtly is that they charge UofL more than what they're charging Kentucky State. Again, $250 is really low for firms of Dinsmore and Shoal's quality these days. So it's for those two reasons, because they are the best firm to do this work, and because they're paying us less than the market price to do the work, is why I'm voting no. I mean, why I'm voting yes, excuse me. Why I'm voting yes.
Representative Chester Burton.
Explain my vote.
Briefly, please.
So, I believe that if you do for one, you must do for others. And I've seen contracts go back and forth that this one gets this amount, this one gets that amount. And I believe if you do for one, you must do for others. And so I'm going to pass on that.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
No. What's the vote?
What's the vote count?
Kim, what's the vote count? 4-2-1, correct? That is there a motion to disapprove the contract? Because we lack the requisite 5 votes. There being none, then the contract will proceed to the Finance Cabinet for the final determination. And appreciate you being available to us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee, let me share with you what the tea leaves tell me about the balance of this meeting. I don't envision we're going to get through it. For those of you who are here, I apologize to you. I don't know who we'll get to as the final one. But if we don't get to you, that means those contracts will go on to Finance Cabinet to be approved. But I'd like to go back to the agenda because I think this next item is going to be the most discussed. And that's the item that was deferred earlier with the Kentucky College of Art Design. So this is Department of Local Government. Our representatives are here. Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt Sawyers, Commissioner of the Department of Local Government.
I requested this to be deferred from last meeting because we had a lot of questions that we didn't get any answers to. And my concern about this contract falls on the guidelines of examining the appropriateness of exchange of resources or responsibilities. And what I read from this is a private college that we're committing $5 million to over the next biennium for operational expenses. And presently, what we were told last month, that they have an enrollment of 6 students. And I struggle with that. That's an appropriate exchange of resources. A couple of questions is, why do they need this $5 million?
Sir, our agency's responsible to distribute the funds per House Bill 1.
Well,
I
here,
cannot
we're
answer that
running
question.
the same problem we did last time, is that people come to the table and can't answer questions that I have. So is anybody here going to be able to answer my questions? I understand that your job is to just give the money out.
Correct.
I need some justification on the contract itself. So I see we have new people coming to the table. If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I'm the president of...
Is your mic on? Is it green?
It
Lit
is.
green?
It is.
Pull closer to you if you would then.
Push it, it's not on.
Oh, sorry, it looked green. I'm the president of Kentucky College of Art and Design. My name is Maura Scott Payne, and I'm here, thank you for the opportunity to address your questions. I've prepared a statement based on the questions from your previous meeting. I'd be delighted to bring that forward, or alternately, I'm here to answer your questions. And
Let's do the questions so that hopefully we can get through this as expeditiously as possible.
fantastic, thank you. And may I say that we have 30 students, not 6.
30?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Don't know that helps me a whole lot when we're spending $5
I
million
know,
on
I know
next
it
to
won't,
30
but I
students.
would like to talk to that a little bit as well. Yeah.
Well, again, why the request for $5 million?
The request, Kentucky College of Art and Design is 15 years old, and we've been developing this independent College of Art and Design. We were affiliated with Spalding University in Louisville for a period of 8 years, and the mission was always to become an independent College of Art and Design. So while we were at Spalding, the college had the opportunity to beta test the business model. It was Spalding's fastest developing art department, 48% growth over 3 years. Within 4 years, we had 150 students. So at that point, the board voted to take the step, and at SAC's urging, to step away and become an independent College of Art and Design. So we
Excuse
did
me,
that.
Let me ask about that. Is why it looked
Yes.
like you had successful model under Spalding University. Why spin it off?
Why spin it off?
Yes.
Because the ambition was large. The ambition was to make a first-class College of Art and Design in Louisville and Kentucky, the state. Not just a department, but something that stood alone, that had national and international an international reputation, really. And there is the opportunity to do that in this state. Kentucky is known for its arts and crafts, and yet it does not have an independent College of Art and Design. It has great, departments, the University of Kentucky and Murray State and the wonderful Berea. These are brilliant art departments, but they're not independent colleges. So this state is losing talent to other cities, to Chicago.
Well, excuse me. Why being not being an independent college? Why is that a detriment to building the reputation of the program?
They're run differently. The ACAD group, the American Independent Colleges of Art and Design, have about 43 members at the moment. We hope to be part of that membership in March next year. What happens is, with an independent College of Art and Design, it really builds the expertise. Everything, the humanities, the arts, the sciences, are built around the center premise of the creative and cultural industries. And they're much more focused on building the artist and designer for the industries that are growing and developing, across the world. And, recently art colleges have been gathering the data that shows employability. 92 to 99% of students who leave good colleges of art and design are employed within a year. And employed in areas that have a relationship to the education that they received. This is really great data. We're all, art colleges have also gathered the data around economic impact. And there are fantastic examples of how art colleges become research engines, but also, an amazing source of income for the state that they're part of.
So what do you see as possibly being your peak enrollment?
We will be 150 to 200 students by 2028. The idea was to keep the model really, really small because we don't have huge funds. So we deliberately chose to maintain a small group of students, and they're all fully scholarshiped. And the reason that we fully scholarshiped them, it wasn't really ethical to actually charge students $30,000 for a non-accredited degree. So, SACS were really pleased with that decision. So we have fundraised to pay for these 30 students. And as soon as we're accredited, and I hope that will be in December, we will begin the process of transitioning from a donor-led model to a tuition model. And that is why we came forward to the state and the city looking for evidence of a kind of recognition of the what has been achieved by the college, and recognition really. We need the state to come behind this, to want this college. It's an example of excellence. I myself came from one of the top art colleges in the world. And I know that already this very small college is producing graduates who are producing top-notch work, really excellent work. They're coming in with very poor abilities and qualifications, and it's astounding what we're achieving. I mean, I hope we can scale that up, but it's certainly working well with 30 students. We had one student who graduated who was an immigrant student with a single parent. He came from one of the outlying high schools in the sort of the far corners of Kentucky. He came in and was one of our students. And after 4 years, he applied to the Royal College in London, Goldsmiths in London, and he was accepted for both. It's extremely difficult to get into the Royal College in London. It's the #1 art college in the world. So for this person from this tiny college in Kentucky to get into that is an incredible achievement for that student.
It is, but that goes to the core of the argument, is we have a limited number of professions that we need to fill.
Yes.
And need to fill them immediately. And part of our challenge is there's not enough money to meet the needs of everyone. This last session, we had proposals from Murray State University to establish a veterinary school, which we desperately need. They didn't receive any funding. We had a proposal from Eastern Kentucky University to establish a Doctor of Osteopathy College for primary care physicians, which we desperately need, but we couldn't provide them any money.
Yes,
but now we're asked to give $5 million to this, which is going to be a limited number of degrees. That's going to affect, I think, potentially the urban areas, and that's what I struggle with. But when you made this decision to go from Spalding to an independent college,
yes,
was the business plan in anticipation that you'd have to ask the state for funding?
The business plan was that we would look for funding from every avenue, that we possibly could, and foundations, donor funding, grants, and. Interestingly, hopefully by December we will be fully accredited, and at that point, a lot more opens up to us. And so we came to the state, to bring you around us, to sort of show you what we've done, and to go into the final steps of accreditation. Our team come in. We have 9 academics flying into Louisville on Monday. And, they will put us through our paces. We've spent 6 years preparing the paperwork for this visit. And we really want to say to them, yes, the state is behind this brand new college. The city is behind this brand new college. It's really unusual to build a brand new college with no large endowment from the ground up. It's been a huge success story, and I really, I hope that you see it as that.
Huge, excuse me, but huge is a relative term.
I think
how many degrees have you awarded so far?
10 so far.
10 so far.
And
over what period?
Over 3 years.
3 years. So basically 3 a year.
Yeah, we've produced 3 years of graduates. In order to achieve accreditation, we had to have produced 1. So no, the huge success is actually getting to the point where it's actually quite difficult to achieve accreditation. It is 72 standards. It brings us to the same operational level as the University of Louisville, Bellarmine, the other universities across the South. And, the universities that are coming in to examine us on Monday will be looking for exactly the same quality of result that they themselves achieve in their own universities. And so the college has done very well, but it really needs your support to make the bridge as it moves from the donor-led model to the tuition model. We will not be coming back to you. We are not a 100-year university.
Would you say that again, please?
We are not coming back to you. We are not a 100-year-old university looking for continual operational funds. We are not asking for that.
If you're so confident in this model, then why rather than give you an appropriation, couldn't we just give you a $5 million no interest loan?
You could give us that, and it would make it harder and slower for us to achieve success.
I appreciate that,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yes.
I could take that $5 million and make an addition to one of our community colleges to start like an LPN program that we could have up and running in 2 years and be placing dozens of people into the medical field that make a comparable contribution.
Well, you know, we do suffer a little bit from the understanding that the arts are equally important, and that you know, there is a sort of an innate prejudice towards the artist, which we try very hard to counter. In fact, the arts are central to society. Everything that we do, the cars that we drive, the clothes we wear, the furniture that we sit in here, the spaces that we design.
Sure, that's why we offer liberal arts degrees at all of our colleges, because
Chairman,
it's for a real well-rounded person.
I think
It's hard for me to get in here. I want to get in here if I can at some point.
Well,
It's not usual where it's hard for me to get in, but it is at this
I
point.
know your history representing the news, but
That's fair.
okay, yes, I'll allow you to have
Thank you,
my
Mr.
comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to say, look, we really support the colleges and universities across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The Murray State program, which Representative Rudy, obviously on our side, Leader Rudy was pushing. I support that wholeheartedly. My own university, Western Kentucky University, wanted to go move up. I think it was R1 designation. It wouldn't have costed any money. We didn't get that done. We should do those things. I do want to say that Murray got $60 million for a vet science program. Hopefully that will be the first step to get to where it needs to go. So it's not like
But they've got a few thousand students too, so
I understand.
relatively speaking, that's
Hey,
a
I'm
better
not-
investment than
you're not going to hear
million.
you're not going to hear any criticism from me. I'm fully supportive of Murray State's effort there. I just wanted to say that it did get some money. Hopefully that will help us in that effort to get where you and I both want to go and where Murray wants to go. I will note with Kentucky College of Art and Design, this is a great conversation that you're having. It's a conversation we've had in the General Assembly for 2 years now. In 2023, we passed a resolution in support. We also made this college eligible for Keys dollars. This past year, this isn't a request for the money. I don't know that this money's already been appropriated. It's just the mechanism to get it to them. So we've already appropriated the dollars. It was in House Bill 1, not in the budget, but it was in House Bill 1. So I don't know if it's properly said that this is a request, because the legislature has already determined that this, and I don't think it's the role of the committee to undo appropriations. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure that I'm right
It's
about
gonna
that.
we have some language to it because we wouldn't be coming for this committee. It's an common agreement. And
Yeah.
again, I go back to our charge is examine appropriateness of an exchange of resources and responsibilities.
Yeah, and
again,
that-
5 million people for 30 students.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Not
it's
sure.
not 30 students. That's not fair, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect, it's 30 students today. It's going to be 150 to 200 students. I want to invite everybody to come to the college. It's a beautiful place. You're going to get excited about it when you come to it. For me, this isn't my jam. Senator Thomas, I don't know anything about art and design. It's not my jam. But neither is what Dr. Douglas does. I wouldn't do that either. I'm a lawyer. But what I do know is the economics of this makes sense, because this is a one-time $5 million appropriation, which has already been made by us. Everyone on this panel, I think, voted for it. Maybe one didn't. I'm not sure. But so it's something that we've decided. And I think this is, for me, it's a good economic decision. One-time $5 million. This is going to pay dividends to the Commonwealth of Kentucky well beyond that $5 million over the years to come. So I strongly recommend that you support this mechanism to get the money that's already been appropriated to KICAD. And I want you to come to the college, because I think it'll make you excited about what's going on there.
I'd prefer you to come to my district and see what $5 million could do in any one of my particular counties.
Yeah, I would
It's
say-
life change, and I guarantee you the return on investment would be 10 times whatever you're going to see with this college. So
Yeah,
that's
there's-
part of it. We've got limited resources,
Yeah.
and we need to be spending in the areas that we're going to get the greatest generation of return. And I struggle with this when I see so many other needs throughout our Commonwealth, particularly in rural Kentucky. But
I understand that, and I think if you look at House Bill 1, we did right by rural Kentucky. We also did right by Louisville. I'm not complaining. We brought record dollars back to Louisville, but Louisville is 24% of the tax revenues, and we don't get anywhere near that in return.
No,
and we don't want that.
But you get our healthcare dollars.
Yes, sir.
You get our retail dollars. You get our recreation dollars. You get a good chunk of our labor force.
And we get a
I would
great-
change that in a day with
Yes.
with the urban Metro Louisville.
Mr. Chairman, we
You
get great.
You can't overlose that.
We get great energy prices too. Look, Louisville doesn't survive unless Grayson, Lexington, Harlan, McCracken survives, and it's vice versa. We are in this thing together.
Then
What
we
I'm
need to
saying-
start acting that way.
Well, I think we are acting that way, and I think in House Bill 1, if you go back and look at it, look at the water projects, all the capital projects, all of the one-time projects, which I don't know how the Senate did the money for them, but all of our members had their priorities. We had our priorities. This was one of our priorities, and that we're not doing this out of some kind of a sense of we think this is a pretty building or we like this thing. This is a good economic decision for the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Well, again, you know my healthcare, my background's healthcare.
Yes, sir.
And we look at disproportionate investment in issues, and one of my biggest problems is that 40% of our population lives in rural Kentucky. Only 17% of our primary care physicians are there.
Right.
We desperately need more physicians. We have a proposal on the table
Yes,
for
sir.
Eastern Kentucky University to do that, and we say no. But we're going to do a College of Arts Design.
Yeah, I don't think it was an either-or proposition, Mr. Chairman. We have House Bill 6, or it was House Bill 8, I don't remember the budget. We put a lot of things in that. House Bill 1, there were a lot of things in that. We put a lot of money into healthcare. Not enough. We'll never get enough. We'll never get enough for education.
I think I give our budget an A-, but quite truthfully, because of healthcare, it was best a C-.
Yeah.
Because we have kicked that can down the road for a year, but you're not going to have this conversation for infinitum, but we need
Yeah.
to move on.
Yes, sir.
I've stated my objections to it.
Yes, sir.
I struggle with it, but I'm not going to hold it up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative McCool.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify what I understand this money is for. You're not asking for recurring funds.
Oh.
It's a process to help you get to accreditation, because one of the main requirements for SACS accreditation is that you be financially secure,
It is.
with the possibilities of additional funding coming later on. So it's just a one-time deal. Helps you get accredited through SACS, we hope. And in addition, once that accreditation occurs, then you are eligible for Pell Grants and other grants that or your students are. So you can seek those dollars and become self-sufficient and financially stable.
Absolutely. And, like I'm only stating the student numbers of 150 to 200 because at that point in 2028, we will be completely self-sufficient and stable. And so we're asking for the bridge. And thank you for understanding that. Yep.
Thank you, Chairman.
Final question I would have is, why didn't Metro Louisville provide the $5 million?
Metro Louisville have provided 500,000. And what I'm hoping is that they will, in the future, help us look at how we develop the campus. We're beginning to bust at the seams with our buildings. And we understand that as we develop a campus, we actually become a hub of sort of potential and creativity and in some of the opportunities that they're looking to develop. So we will go back to them.
Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, I'm not shy about speaking, but
Yes, I know that.
I really did want to hear from Representative Nemes because I saw him at the table, and as you know, I have a high regard from my colleagues here at the General Assembly, as evidenced by my asking Representative McCool earlier to elaborate on his comments earlier. So I did want to hear from you, Representative Nemes, and I appreciate what you said. I want to tell you what I did. Generally, when I get these contracts, I just wait to come to meetings and then address them. But I will. And what's your name, Madam President?
Moira Payne.
President Payne.
Yes.
This time I did something different. I did some actual investigative work before I came here.
Yes.
One of the things that I did was I called the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, known as SACS.
Yes.
And while they couldn't comment on your review, and I understood that, they did tell me, which is I already knew from the SACS guidelines, that the support that the community has for a school, either public or private, is one of the things that they consider.
Yes.
In determining whether accreditation is important. The reason I had asked you to come to the table this time, I had agreed to defer it because my concern at the time was how critical is this $5 million for your accreditation and whether we could apply it after you got accredited. After doing my investigative work, I want you to know, Representative Nemes, my mindset has changed. That if you don't get the $5 million, you probably will not get accredited or may not get accredited. So you need the money to get accredited. I agree with you wholeheartedly on the arts. I have said many times publicly that I think the arts represent the soul of our society. That's my position. And people in Lexington will tell you that I'm a big promoter of the arts there. I've never visited your school. But I have visited the South Carolina School of Art Design, known as
Right.
SCAD. I have done that.
Yes.
And I'm very impressed with what SCAD does
Yep.
In the southeast part of the United States.
Yep.
So I want you to know, Representative Nemes, that I'm going to support this contract.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to see you here representing this institution. I think that says a lot that you're willing to lend your name and reputation to this. And again, after talking with Sachs, after having visited South Carolina School of Art Design and realizing how important this money is to your accreditation, and let's not forget, as Representative Nemes pointed out, we've already appropriated the money. We voted for this back in April. So we as a body said, we want you to have the money. I'm going to support this.
Thank you very much, Senator Thomas, for your comments and your understanding of our situation. You're right that Savannah College of Art and Design, their financial impact last year was $1 billion for the Savannah area and $328 million for Metro Atlanta. They are serious economic drivers for their region, and that school's only 40 years old. It's really impressive. And we do not have the equivalent in Kentucky, and this college is doing very well. I'm hoping that you got a good review from Sachs. Certainly they are pretty interested. They couldn't comment. Yes. I think they're interested in the innovation that we're promoting in some of the interesting areas around how higher education develops in the current climate. Thank you. Thank you.
Entertain a motion to approve. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed. Briefly.
Thank you, Chair. So, President Payne, thank you for the invite that I attended along with Representative Nemes, where you displayed what your vision was.
Thank you.
And I adored it. I support the arts in all levels. And I just want you to know that I think it's long overdue, and I appreciate your vision, and I totally support what you're trying to do.
Thank you, Representative Chester. Okay. Thank you.
Motion by Chester Burton. Is there a second? Second by Senator Thomas. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Mr. Chairman, I want to pass, but I want to explain my vote very quickly. I understand that this is a one-time ask, and I appreciate that. We don't want to charge the students, but we're being asked to charge the taxpayers, who themselves personally aren't getting anything. And when I no, it doesn't require a response. I apologize. When I talk to my constituents, which is really what I'm going by.
Yep.
I also have to make it make sense to them, and many of them don't see it that way. And I always tell people I'm a legislator. I'm elected to represent my constituents, and that's what I'm doing. Two things I'd like to say, and then I'll shut up. Or I guess three. $5 million loan, not a bad idea. I'm really not sure if there's prejudice, as we want to use that word way too much, against artists, as much as it is in our current economic environment. People are in survival mode. I think those are two different. I think those are two different issues. And I do think the people on this committee do understand. I think this agreement does not suggest a misunderstanding. I think it just means that different people can come to different conclusions given the same information. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Explain my vote.
Yes, please.
As I look around this room, I am certain, without any comments, that we all enjoy the arts. Whether it's the weekend, a family gathering, but I am almost certain, I don't have to really take a poll, but there are so many things in our community that we take part of that is part of the arts. So I vote yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
I'd like to explain my vote real quick. My vote and our what we're tasked with on this committee is not a question of whether or not we support the arts. It's a question of are we spending the taxpayers' money efficiently. Just in my region of the state, and I live in a rural area, but I also represent rural and urban northern Kentucky. We had a one-time ask of a major road project that would help the commuters from our rural area get to their jobs. And it was cut for various reasons, but it's hard for me to approve a bill or a contract that is going to pay $5 million and in the eyes of my constituents and the public help very few when we passed over a project for the same amount of money that would have helped an entire region. So with that, I vote no.
Chairman Meredith?
Surprisingly, I'll vote aye, because I do want to respect the appropriation process that we go through. But I think it needs to be more detailed, in depth. Yeah, you may think this is insignificant, but one of the things I've championed for rural Kentucky is establishment of a viable trauma network. We passed legislation back in 2008 to do this, and it never has received an appropriation. They've asked for $1 million. We are 49th in the nation in trauma-related deaths, principally in rural areas. It disproportionately affects rural areas, but we can't find $1 million. And the return on investment of this, I guarantee you, is 4 or 5 digit. It truly is. So I certainly agree with Co-Chair Hart's remarks. It's very tough for us to see expenditure of this nature when we have so many needs in rural Kentucky. And representing, I understand we had a great budget this last time. We saw things that we have never seen before, and I hope that trend continues. But it's still in my gut and in my heart that rural Kentucky gets a disproportionate share of the dollars. And I understand, again, the urban areas are the tax generators. But unless we lift this entire state up, we'll be a good state, but we won't be a great state. And we need to make those investments, particularly in vital services like trauma care and health care and education. Again, I'll vote aye, but begrudgingly. Motion passes. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next up on the pulled list, University of Kentucky, number 58 through 61 on the PSC green list. I'm sorry, University of Louisville. What did I say? I'm sorry, University of Louisville first. University of Louisville? University of Louisville?
Yes.
Virtual?
Yes.
Are you with us? All right, if you would
Yes.
please identify yourself for the record.
Sally Malsberger, Chief Procurement Officer.
Appreciate you being here this morning. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. I request these 4 contracts to be pulled because collectively we're spending about $1.1 million for, in essence, recruitment of university personnel. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Now, this is as needed. This is not, this is based on each one of these firms, the anticipated search at one of the leadership levels, one search.
Then we got a 1.1 potentially.
Correct.
How much did University of Louisville spend last year?
Over the last 2 fiscal years, the biennium, it was 1.1993 million. So it was about 1.2 million.
Do you know how that compares to our other universities in Kentucky?
We've had a lot of vacancies and a lot of changeovers in the last 5 years at the university. And prior to last biennium, we did have leadership that were on interim roles, and then they were placed on a 2-year presidency to preserve our accreditation. And so That's why the number was so high, the last 2 bienniums. However, this is on an as-needed basis. And the 3 contracts we submitted last month, all 3 of those firms have already been engaged for searches that are in place. So that's the reality about, we've got a lot of interim still in our dean positions. One of our deans was hired as the permanent provost. So we have been prioritizing a lot of our searches. And the search firms that we had on contract previously, we found that we did not have enough of them, and we had to stagger out our searches because some of the search firms are engaged in searches for private universities that are much more lucrative for them. And so that's where we learned through that. We do an RFP process. We absolutely have not submitted any sole source search firms. We tried to encompass all the people we've got here and the firms they've worked with. And so we had 14 respondents, and we're only, with these last 4, that totals 7 firms. And there's one last firm that we are trying to finalize the contract that we may or may not come to resolution with.
Well, the point I'm trying to make, it's a substantial amount of money, and college tuition is already higher than it needs to be to begin with. And you multiply this by each university in the state of Kentucky, and we're talking about sizable dollars. And if recruitment needs are kind of extreme at this point, it's a reflection, I think, on the administration of each college. And I'm not sure the taxpayers had to pay the price for that, but it is what it is. We got to fill the spot. But again, just I've got concern that we're spending so much money in this area that really has a direct impact on educating our students. Any questions, comments from anyone else? Not entertain a motion.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Again, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
No.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
No. And the count? 5 yes, 2 no. Measure passes. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Or afternoon, whatever it may be now. Next time on the pulled list is with behavioral health, developmental and intellectual disabilities, number 1 on the MOA pink list.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Stephanie Craycraft, Deputy Commissioner for the Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental and Intellectual Disabilities.
I'm Jennifer Moore. I'm Assistant Director with the Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental and Intellectual Disabilities.
Appreciate you being here. If you would, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Co-Chair Hart has questions.
I just one little explanation. As I read this, I'm just a little confused on what we're doing. The description says the funding source is from capital construction, but we're not really building a building. Instead, it looks like we're funding a pilot program. Could you all just explain what's actually going on here and why this would have come out of capital construction when it's not an actual construction project?
Yes, sir. The funds for this project were set aside in House Bill 1 from the past session, and there were those funds, which I believe were general fund from the Budget Reserve Trust Fund. They set up separate accounts, and so those accounts are acting kind of like a capital construction account, even though it's not necessarily that, but the funds are blocked off or protected in that account. And so the $10 million is set aside in that, but it's really that general fund.
Okay. That's all I have, Senator Meredith. If
Senator Douglas.
My ears always go up when I hear they set aside. Would you help me again with who they are?
Just like finance, like just the finance cabinet, when they set the accounts up for those funds, they're in separate accounts that are similar to capital construction accounts.
So we're talking about the executive branch?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Representative Chester Burton.
Okay, with this pilot program that you are going to be servicing, what does your staffing look like?
So this will be a contracted program. Of course, it's with the Barren River Area Development District.
I can't hear you. Can you?
I'm sorry. It's a contracted program with the Barren River Area Development District. It's going to be a multi-provider effort. And so they are actually developing and constructing a program that will act like a crisis services program. And they'll offer crisis services to folks with substance use disorder as well as other behavioral health needs. And I don't think they're at the point where those staffing plans are developed yet. So, but there is reporting that's required that we'll get as this project moves forward.
I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Thank you. The motion is second. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Again, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Pass.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Excuse me. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, I'm going to call an audible here. Yep. We have a request for deferral on items 165 through 68 on the MOA pink list. They could not be here today. These were contracts that requested a retroactive approval, so I'd like a motion to defer.
Deferral.
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. The second audible I want to call. Obviously, we're not going to get through these, so I'd like to move to the Transportation Cabinet, if those folks are here. Or are they virtual?
They are virtual.
Transportation Cabinet, you're virtual? Hello, hello.
Can you hear me?
I see someone.
Hi,
Hi, can you identify yourself for the record?
Laura Hagan, the Director of Division of Purchases.
Are you solo today?
No, Bill.
My microphone may not be working.
I hear you now.
We hear you.
Okay. Bill Bell, Executive Director of the Office of Highway Safety.
If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
All right, thank you. A lot of contracts here, 269 through 282, and I requested these be pulled because there's a central theme to these contracts, and they all have to deal with collection of data, either to enhance the collection of data or to improve the collection of data. In total, this is about $1.3 million, and a lot of money to collect data.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to sound like a trite statement, but is this really all necessary?
Yes, we have a committee called K-TRAC, which is the Kentucky Traffic Records Advisory Committee, and several of these contracts are required by NHTSA for us to receive federal funding.
Well, let me jump to one specifically that concerns me, and that's 272. With the trauma registry data system, $157,000. And says funds to improve the data system. Substantial body of evidence supports the ability of state-run trauma system to reduce the total of motor vehicle crash-related death. I get that, but if you heard the testimony earlier, we have a trauma system in Kentucky that's never been funded. We know that trauma is worse in rural communities as it is anywhere else. It's the number one killer of people in Kentucky under the age of 45 in rural Kentucky. So when you collect this data, What do you do with it?
Well, you're absolutely right, sir. We need better responses, quicker responses, because it's estimated that 40 to 50% of people in crashes are alive at the time of the incident, and they end up passing away by the time they make it to a medical facility. So that's the reason for grants such as this one to help improve that timing and the response.
But again, that's
especially
what I'm asking is we're collecting this data. We know it's there. We know it's bad. What are we doing with the data? You know, I've presented a bill, I think, for 3 years in a row to try to address funding for our trauma network in Kentucky. You folks have never testified in favor of the bill. So what are we doing with the data? That's my concern. We're spending $1.3 million in collecting data that we never do anything with, other than it's a federal requirement that we need to do this sort of thing. So and this one sticks out particularly because I'm a healthcare guy.
We absolutely use the data. And so we use this data to implement our programs.
Then specific to 272, what programs have been implemented?
Well, as far as I'm not sure which programs have been implemented from this, but it's our hope that the responses for EMS are drastically improved. They have other issues on EMS, as you probably know, like Bath County. Bath County, they have to borrow EMS resources.
I'm very well of that, and I know that we have a bill
so-
this last time to try to address tuition assistance for people who want to become EMTs and PMS or the paramedics, but again, no appropriation for that. So there's a problem. What are we doing with the data?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is going to not only our federal partners, but other folks that use this data around the state, such as UK, UofL, and the Board of EMS.
Well, it goes to it, but again, and again, I'm not picking on you today. It's my frustration with we're constantly collecting data and never doing anything with it. Other than that, we got great data, but we don't do anything with it. We don't get any results out of it. So, again, I know I'm going down a rabbit hole. I appreciate y'all being available to me this morning, but this just reeks of bureaucracy. And I know you folks aren't responsible for that. That's a lot of different faults. But I've got no other questions, comments. Anything from the committee? Not entertain a motion to approve. Is there a second? Well, I got to have a motion first, don't I? Just thought I'd try to get your attention. It's not a motion. It's not a second. Senator Thomas makes a motion. Is there a second? Motion made, but dies from lack of second. Is there a motion to disapprove? There being none, then these contracts will move forward to the Finance Cabinet for final disposition. Thank you all for being available to us, and thank you for allowing me to rant.
Thank you.
That's what happens when you get to be an old guy. For the rest of you folks that are here, again, my apologies that you've been here for so long. Senator Thomas.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, another point of information. I agree that these meetings have been running long. Is there a possibility that we could have 2 meetings in a month, at least through the remainder of this year? Because I think what we're doing is the right thing. We are inquiring about the issues, the questions we have. As I said earlier, there's a lot of give and take, and we should be analytical and inquisitive about why these contracts are being asked to be approved. And so I don't think, I don't want to just blindly and routinely just approve them. I think there ought to be some analysis and questioning of them. So I don't see why we can't do this at least 2 a month, at least through the end of this year, so we can be fully caught up by the time session begins in January.
Well, in answer to your question is our meetings are set in statute, and so that would require a change. But
The statute says we got to meet once a month.
Yes, and there's a time factor that's involved with that. But, I would comment, Senator Thomas, great questions. I appreciate everybody's passion for what we're trying to do here and how we're trying to make state government better and more responsive. But again, I think we get beyond the scope of the responsibility of this committee. We can't fix state government, and Lord knows it needs to be fixed. But again, we've got to go back to those three basic premises I mentioned earlier, which is also set in statute, Chapter 45A, that our responsibilities are very specific. And I think we get beyond the walls of that, and that's where we get in trouble. And I would hope future meetings we can be a little bit more focused, but possibly that's the fault of the chair. I'll take responsibility for that, and we'll move on. But that's kind of where we are. But again, you folks are here that we pull those contracts. If we have not had a chance to get to them, then they will automatically be approved and move on to Finance Cabinet. My apologies again for making you sit here so long and not being able to talk about your particular issues, but I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, might want to make a motion for all those remaining.
Yeah, I'd accept a motion to grant approval to all the contracts that pulled that we have not been able to examine. Are you making that?
So moved.
Motion by Representative Hart, seconded by Senator Thomas. All those in favor will vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
I vote aye, Mr. Chairman. Most of my questions were going to be informational anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. Last order of business we have is have 3 exemption requests, and they're the usual. They go beyond the biannual period, so they've asked for exemptions. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Co-Chair Hart, seconded by Mr. Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. Last order of business is to announce our November meeting. Please note the day change. This meeting will be Wednesday, November 13th at 9 o'clock, and I assume in this room. If there's no further business come before this committee, thank everyone for your participation, patience, and indulgence today. We stand adjourned.
If Lynn Baker's here, could you meet with me for a minute?